Meanwhile, the Sudanese army has accepted a Saudi-American initiative for truce talks. The envoy of Sudan's military leader says the army does not intend to hold face-to-face talks with the paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, and only through mediators. The two groups have been fighting since mid-April and have traded blame for violating the humanitarian ceasefire on multiple occasions. There have been several attempts to bring both sides to the negotiating table.
This is an internal problem and we will focus on solving it internally. In relation to the ceasefire and the humanitarian aid, we might have cooperation to some extent with the organizations and our political alliances like the Arab League and the African Union with our consent and participation in all the details that relate to this support. There is no responsible government or a state that would accept mediation with those who rebelled against it and caused all of this instability, damage and fighting. Mediation comes in issues later than this when there is no military conflict.
Well, let's discuss the unfolding situation in Sudan even further this hour. Now joined by David Otto Endley, who is the Director on Security for the Horn of Africa Institute for Peace and Security. He joins us live this hour from Abuja. David, thank you for joining us. As we've heard there, Sudan's army has now accepted a Saudi-American initiative for truce talks, but not face-to-face discussions with the Rapid Support Forces. Just how complicated is Sudan's case, especially a return to table talks, and how do mediators eventually get to that point?
It's very complicated, especially with the fact that this war has broken out, this conflict has broken out between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese Armed Forces. But mediation is a priority, and the only way you can go about that is when you have countries that have some leverage. This is why you can see countries like Saudi Arabia and the United States perhaps leveraging on the RSF, from Saudi Arabia, and perhaps the United States from the Sudanese Armed Forces. And there's a possibility that such negotiations or mediations would have been organized by local parties, perhaps the South Sudan that was involved in the 2020 Juba agreement. So I think it's very important to have these talks take place. But again, it's down to both parties, when they do deploy their their negotiators to agree on pre-talks and to agree on what the terms and conditions of these discussions will look like. I think the priority now is to stop the fighting, is to respect the ceasefire and more for humanitarian access to go ahead. But this is a very good progress, if these mediators succeed to bring both parties on board.
All right. David, thank you very much for speaking to us on Africa Live this hour. David Otto Endley joining us live there from Abuja.